What is up, YouTube? I am GOAT74 here, bringing you guys week 2 of the PTL. This week we take on Joey, coach of the Los Angeles Nidokings. We're going into this game with a 1-0 record, while my opponent is also going into this game with a 1-0 record. To recap what happened last week with you guys, I'm going to spoil it for you. We did defeat Amit in a nice 2-0 victory. Cinderace put in the finest of work. I highly recommend you go check that out. It will either be in the description below or on my channel most likely. I'll probably forget to put it in the description. Really good battle. Hope you go and check it out. But this week we faced Joey. They are both a part of Team D-Train, as in the PTO we are part of teams. And I'm a part of the GOAT Crusaders. We're doing very good so far. We did really good week 1, and as of week 2 we're doing really good as well. So hopefully I can keep up the momentum for the team. Don't really have any other notes to say about anything else really, so I'm just going to dive right into this video and we're going to look at my opponent's team. My opponent this week has a squad consisting of Dracozolt, Hawlucha, Milotic, Mimikyu, Vileplume, Galvantula, Claydol, Sneasel, Incineroar without Intimidate, and Pincurchin. I would expect my opponent to consist of Dracozolt, Hawlucha, Milotic, Mimikyu, Vileplume, and Pincurchin. He could drop Mimikyu for one of his dark types, but outside of that, I'm pretty sold on these 6. And the new mons he has on his team are Dracozolt and Pincurchin, new generation 8 mons, and I expect both of them to come. He's got 3 electric types, which is really interesting. But the rest on my opponent's side, his team is very hard to deal with from a defensive standpoint than offensive standpoint from a defensive, because he's got some really defensive mons in Milotic and Vileplume particularly that are very annoying to break, especially Vileplume. In week 1, he used Vileplume a lot in that game, and he used it really well. And Vileplume actually does really good against my team too, because Sleep Powder, Strength Sap, Giga Drain, Sludge Bomb does a lot of work against my team. So that's something I really have to look out for. And then Milotic just doesn't die. So I have a Rotom that walls it every time, but if Rotom goes down, then I'm going to have a hard time breaking that overall. And that's really the biggest threats to his team. Nothing really scares me from an offensive standpoint. Dracozolt with Scarf could be scary if my Rhyperior goes down, because spoilers, Rhyperior is going to be my switch-in. But outside of that, nothing's really scary. I guess Hawlucha if it gets too boosted, but that's a Hawlucha. It's always going to be a little bit scary. And that's sort of it from his side of the field. Luckily, I do see a way I can win this. I have an Espeon that's going to just spam Psychic. I know he has 2 Dark types sitting right there, but I don't expect either of them to come. And if one comes, I just have to get rid of it. And I can just take one prediction and do a lot of damage to either of them. So not too worried about it. And again, Espeon can just spam Psychic against my opponent because his switch-ins are not that great to a Spec Psychic, because that's what we're going to be bringing this week. But that is going to be my opponent's team. The team I am rocking out with this week consists of Galarian Weezing, Cinderace, Golisopod, Rhyperior, Rotom Wash, and Espeon. So yes, the first mon on the team this week is going to be the Galarian Weezing. Galarian Weezing is holding the Black Sludge with the Misty Surge ability, moves being Strange Steam, Flamethrower, Toxic, and Pain Split. This thing definitely fulfills a few roles, but the main role it fulfills is beating Hawlucha down, and that is the biggest thing it's going to do in this entire game. The reason I Misty Surge is for 2 reasons. 1, a Sleep Powder Vileplume is very annoying, and 2, if he wants to go the Electric Surge route with Pincurchin, I could probably stop the seed from popping for the Hawlucha with putting up Misty Surge over the Electric Surge, because he would run Electric Seed. And my opponent wouldn't know that I have Misty Surge until I send out Weezing, thus he might be scared to lock himself in Earthquake with Dracozolt. And he probably won't know that because Hawlucha only comes out at late game usually, and that's my thought process around that. But again, mainly here just to be Hawlucha, and it's also here to switch in a few things like Vileplume, because my Vileplume switch-in doesn't really exist. Sneasel if it wants to come. It beats Mimikyu down because Strange Steam's so good. And I have Pain Split for recovery and all that good stuff. I do have a defensive wall on Rhyperior a little bit later, as I'll get into then, but Weezing is here to also support that as well and be an extra backup layer for my defensive wall. And I think Weezing is going to do pretty good because I'm expecting a lot of the things Weezing walls to come. So we'll see how it does. Next pawn on the team is going to be the Cinderace. Cinderace is rocking out with the boots, moves being Pyro Ball, Low Kick, U-Turn, and Court Change. I am bringing Court Change for the first time this season. I'm not sure if I'll end up using it, because I know if Pincurchin comes, he might want to Hazard Stack me, and then I can just Court Change it over. His team is very weak to fire outside of Milotic. That being said, Milotic is a very good switch into the Cinderace, so I'm expecting to be clicking Power Ball into U-Turn a lot, which is what I'm expecting to. Incineroar is also a good switch in, but the thing is, Incineroar, A, it doesn't have Intimidate in this league, and B, it gets worn down pretty quickly, so I could, Powerball, U-turn out, eventually it will go down. I also have Low Kick for it as well. Don't know if I Jump Kick because Mimikyu is sitting right there. So yeah, that is the Cinderace. I have enough speed to outspeed Hawlucha without the Unburden boost, so if I prevent him from getting an Unburden boost, Cinderace actually offensively beats that thing. And that was pretty cool. This is here mainly to be a good offensive pivot against my opponent. Oh, it was webs too, that's what it was. It was also for webs because I didn't want webs on my side of the field. But that is going to be the Cinderace set. Moving on to the third mon is a new mon on the team this week. We have Agent Pod. Golisopod is here holding the Life Orb. Moves being a First Impression, Leech Life, Liquidation, and Aqua Jet with a lot of speed on this thing. I thought about running other moves, but I thought Dual Stab was good enough in the end. First Impression is really good against my opponent's team. The only thing that really takes First Impression well is the Hawlucha and the Mimikyu, and Mimikyu doesn't really appreciate an Aqua Jet once its disguise is broken because I am a Life Orb set this week. This beats all of his lower tiers for the most part, and if Milotic's not Flame Orb, First Impression does almost half to it. That's an insane amount of damage. If I don't get burnt, I could just Leech Life, and then Milotic is not in a fun spot. This is also here to kind of revenge kill a Dracozolt if it is Scarf, which I am expecting a Scarf Dracozolt. But that is just kind of it. This is really good priority against my opponent's team because I might need it because Hawlucha's very hard to revenge kill sometimes if it gets boosted. Dracozolt's going to be a little bit annoying to revenge kill. Mimikyu might be. And then Golisopod just gives me answers to all of them from an offensive standpoint. I'm excited to use it. I don't think Emergency X is going to be too worrying this week because worst comes to worst, I'll just get out of there. Not really a big deal. Won't be staying in for long anyway. But that's going to be Golisopod. As I've been mentioning, my defensive wall in this week is going to be in Rhyperior. Rhyperior is holding the leftovers with the moves Stealth Rock, Earthquake, Ice Punch, and Protect. Very bulky boy. This thing is stupid bulky. This thing walls everything on my opponent's team, basically. That it's not Milotic or Vileplume. This thing takes hits from Hawlucha fine, unless it's boosted, of course. Dracozolt, which this is my main switch in the Dracozolt, and this deals with it very well. A banded one could be a little bit scary, but it never OHKOs me or anything. Sneasel, Incineroar, that's what Rhyperior can wall. Pincurchin if it's not running Scald. Really good, and just because Rhyperior already has a beefy attack stat, Earthquake still hits really hard. Yes, I can't really hit Claydol too much because Ice Punch is not doing too much because Claydol is a bulky boy as well, but I can still deal with it. I do have rocks to get up. Rocks aren't important in this game, but they're really nice because First Impression does 90% the Dracozolt, so the rock chip would be really nice. And there's a bunch of other scenarios where the rocks would be nice too. But again, not the most necessary in the entire world. I just need this thing to switch into the Dracozolt. And that's what Rhyperior is here for. Next up, we have Rhythm Wash. Rhythm Wash is holding the Citrus Berry with the moves of Full Twitch, Thunderbolt, Shadow Ball, and Light Screen. I decided not to run Hydro Pump because A, probably miss. B, I don't see Incineroar really ever switching in if it decides to come. And C, it still hits Claydol for some damage. This moveset's pretty interesting. I have Light Screen over Will-O-Wisp because I did have Will-O-Wisp originally on the team. But I felt like Light Screen was better because Vileplume is going to be the switch in almost every time to Rotom. And if I get up a Light Screen, I can Volt out the following turn and then play a little bit more recklessly with my offense. And I can go from there. That was my thought process behind that. And this is just a main really good switch into Milotic and sort of Galvantula and Claydol. The best three things that Rotom switches into because Milotic's a bitch to deal with. And Claydol could be a little bit annoying too. Okay, actually Galvantula's a little bit more annoying because my switch-ins to that are a little bit limited if it runs Energy Ball. And that's just kind of really only what Rotom's here for, but Milotic is 100% a bring, so it has to come in that sense. And again, Light Screen's pretty nice. That's basically it for the Rotom set. And then finally, we have our win con of the week. We have Espeon. Espeon is holding the Choice Specs with the moves Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, Grass Knot, and Trick. I mentioned earlier that this was going to be my win con because I don't see two of his Dark types coming. I don't even see either of them coming. And Psychic is just so spammable in the end. It's going to be really nice. And it only takes one prediction to kill Sneasel because Sneasel's weak. And Incineroar is going to get chipped down over the battle. So if I make a prediction there as well, with D-Gleam, it's going to do a lot of damage. And Psychic, I outspeed almost everything on his team except for Sneasel and Hawlucha. Hawlucha's not really a threat without the Unburden boost. And Sneasel's a threat, but again, don't see that coming. And that's kind of it. And then Trick is to trick maybe Dracozolt if Scarf is getting out of hand. That is basically the Espeon set, and then hopefully it's going to do a lot of work because I need it to do a lot of work. That's going to be it for the team builder. Don't have much to say. I hope this team puts in a lot of work. We're going to go over the Pokemon Showdown, and we're going to watch the battle. Alright, we are here on Pokemon Showdown, and he did not bring the Pincurchin Hawlucha set. He does have Hawlucha, but not a Pincurchin. And he did not bring the Mimikyu, but he did bring the Incineroar, so I do have to watch out for that. I am going to lead off with Cinderace because it beats everything outside of Dracozolt, or at least I could U-turn out and everything. And I don't think he's going to lead with that, as he leads off with the Incineroar. And this is not Intimidate, so U-turn's going to do a nice little bit of damage as he just hard switches out into Milotic turn 1. And that's fine, I can get into my Rotom here. And I mentioned in my team builder that I'm probably going to click Light Screen on this because Vileplume should be the switch in. And if Vileplume switches in, I can Light Screen, Volt Switch out, and then go offensive, as he does just that. And now I'm going to Volt Switch on this next turn. I would like to go Espeon here, but since he has the Incineroar, it's not that safe to go in Espeon this early in the game. So I'm just going to go Cinderace and play a little bit more recklessly with that. He doesn't have webs, so Court Change isn't the biggest deal in the world this game. I don't think he has Claydol for rocks, and that's it. But here I can just fire off a Power Ball, and Milotic comes in, takes 22%, which is a pretty reasonable amount. And now I can just U-turn out, and then we're going to continue the cycle over and over again. That eventually I should be winning this outcome. I know Milotic gets Recover, but there's going to come a point where I should win this battle 1v1. Unfortunately, I do not have rocks up, so this would make this so much easier to deal with, but it happens. He hard switches down the Vileplume, I just Volt Switch this time, and now I get Cinderace in the back again, and it's just the same process over and over again. I can just keep kicking Power Ball into U-turn, wearing down the Milotic, and even this Milotic mostly, as he actually goes out in the Claydol to try and switch it up as I just click the Power Ball. And that does so much damage to Claydol, that's insane. And now I can U-turn out, he goes on to Incineroar this time, and I need this Incineroar gone. And once this Incineroar is gone, Espeon can just start spamming Psychic. I go on a Rotom here, and I'm just going to Volt Switch out. I do not have the Hydro Pump on me, as he actually stays in. And I can go on a Rhyperior, I can take any hit from this thing, as he goes for the Will-O-Wisp and misses. That's really unfortunate because I need Earthquake to do some damage this game, and the fact that he missed that is really unfortunate. I apologize to my opponent as I go back on the Rotom to take the burn. I don't mind Rotom being burned whatsoever. I'm going to Volt Switch again. He does not know I don't have the Hydro Pump as Vileplume comes out this time, and I can go back out into the Cinderace, and it's the same story over and over again. I'm shocked he hasn't gone to Milotic each time because that's like the best way he could have played this, but it happens. He goes into Incineroar into the Pyro Ball, as Pyro Ball does a solid 22%. And I've been hiding this low kick the entire time. I'm going to bust it out now and knock out the Incineroar. And this turn was huge because now Espeon Psychic is very free. He goes down the Dracozolt, which is Screaming Scarf, so I'm going to go on a Rhyperior just to see what he does. As he goes for the Dragon Claw, that's a good neutral play. That has not been to damage, so I'm pretty convinced he's Scarf. He might be Adamant, but he's definitely Scarf. Now he goes down the Claydol as I double back out into Weezing, expecting the Dragon Claw again because I had the Misty Surge and, I'm a Fairy type. But Claydol is a good play because I can't touch this thing. I have to go out into Rotom and deal with it this way as he busts out the screens. I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be Light Screen, Reflect, and Explosion, I think. As he sets up Reflect, he's actually faster. As I set up my own Light Screen for myself, I was just saying, why not? At least I'll get it up. And I can just fire off a Shadow Ball as he goes hard Hawlucha. He went hard Hawlucha, and I'm thinking like, okay, this guy is definitely weakness policy, and you're gonna see that. I think that because I'm just gonna hard switch into Weezing instead of Volt Switching because since he has Light Screen up, he will live, and if he goes for Swords Dance, that's a +4 Hawlucha, and that would be a very scary situation. So by not Volt Switching, I avoid that scenario. As he just goes for Acrobatics, it's doing absolutely nothing to my Weezing, and I can Strange Team, still break the Substitute, and in this process, I'm also wearing down his screens as well. I'm assuming he's light clay, which he is, but it's not that big of a deal because Hawlucha is now a little bit chipped down, which is really nice. As the Vileplume comes in, I can touch this thing with Flamethrower, but I'd rather have my health for the Hawlucha later, so I'm just going to go hard into Cinderace, play really recklessly with this thing. As he goes to the Sludge Wave, it does a lot, but the good thing is that I'm knocked into Blaze range, so now Power Ball is going to be doing lots of damage. Milotic comes in, because he is behind a Reflect, it's not going to do too much. There's only 16, but without the Reflect, I would have been like doing 30, and that would have been insane for a Milotic. But again, I can just U-turn out on this thing and go into the Rotom, but instead I go out into Espeon. I do this because I know Psychic is a 2-co if he's a defensive one, which I'm starting to debate if he even is defensive. And Incineroar is gone, so Psychic's free as it does 56%. I guess with Death Drop, which is a little bit unfortunate for my opponent. Skull's going to come out, it does like 40%. And it's only unfortunate because this could have been a roll without this with Death Drop, but it's not a roll now. As he goes down to Claydol, and Claydol is not taking this Psychic. He's not taking two of them. I get noticed with Death Drop, that one doesn't matter. As Claydol is going to drop, and Espeon is looking like a very potent threat against my opponent. It kills basically everything. Dracozolt comes out, again, Screaming Scarf. As I go on to Cinderace just to sack it, but unfortunately for my opponent, he misses. And that's going to come up a little bit later. As you're going to see, I can go double on the Rotom now because, you know, he missed an Earthquake. As he goes for it again, I'm pretty sure he's Scarfed in, so I could just start firing off Shadow Balls and weakening this thing down. As he, you know, pulls the switch into the Vileplume. And this is where that miss kind of matters, because I'm going to Volt Switch out this following turn after a little bit of, you know, leftovers and burn. And now I can sack the Cinderace, so I can bring out Espeon for free. As Cinderace comes out, and he clicks the Sludge Wave and knocks out my Cinderace. And because of that, I wasn't able to do that if I sacked my Cinderace to the Dracozolt. Now Espeon comes in and basically gets a free kill, as he decides to leave the Vileplume in and kill this thing off, which is great. And we're up 5-3 right now. We're looking pretty good. Dracozolt is coming out. Not really a big deal. I can just go out into Rhyperior as he goes for the Earthquake. Good play on my opponent's part. It only does 37% though, so I can definitely live another one. And instead of trying to take another one, I'm actually just going to go out into the Rotom because, you know, I'm levitating. I'm immune to it, and it's good against his other two Mons. That's why I decided to do that. And now I can just fire for free Volt Switch. I'm not really feeling the weakness policy as much, as he's actually just Citrus Berry in the end. So that makes sense why he was going for Substitute a few times. But now I can go out into Weezing and just wall this thing for days. He's wasted his Unburden, as he's going to probably go for the Acrobatics at this point. As he just fires it off, and he crits me, but it only does half. So that's really shocking. That definitely is not max attack or something like that, because that did like little damage. At least I think. I don't know. I could be knowing my calcs wrong. He goes down the Dracozolt here. At this point, Weezing's not really worth too much, so I just sack it off. He's locked into Bolt Beak, so I can just go out into Rhyperior for free. This is fine, because I know he's going to switch out of Milotic, so I'm actually just going to throw up Rocks here. And the reason I did this is because Earthquake was doing not too much damage to this Milotic, and Rocks is really big for the Dracozolt, because Psychic was almost a one-shot, as same with First Impression, but if he has a little bit of bulk or any bulk, he'll live any of those hits, and because of Rocks, it makes my life a lot easier. So that's why I decided to do that. Plus, I could just always just go into Rotom like I did here, and on the Milotic, and just Volt Switch out. As I am going to Volt Switch out, I get a crit here, but I'm going to go out into Espeon just to do some offensive damage, as the crit doesn't really matter because he just clicks Recover this turn, gets all the way back up to full. Now, I get to click Grass Knot instead of Psychic. I'm going to do this because if he switches out in the Dracozolt, that's just more chip with the Rocks, and this way I'm 2-KOing Milotic every single time. And Milotic can't really come in on Rocks at this point because everything can beat it. Golisopod can beat it, Rotom can beat it, and Milotic's just going to die. At this point, the game's basically over. All he has to do is... He can't do anything because I can just First Impression, and I should live any one hit, as I just sack off the Espeon here to a crit. Doesn't matter. And Golisopod comes in, I First Impression. If he doesn't knock me out, he'll knock me into emergency exit range. As you're going to see here, he actually does live on a decent amount of health, so he might have some bulk into this Dracozolt. As he just Dragon Claws, and I'm going to be booted out of there, but Rhyperior comes in. Even if he like crits me or whatever and kills my Rhyperior, Golisopod wins this with First Impression. So, spoiler, we are going to win this game. You see here, he doesn't even do that. And we are going to win this game 3-0 against Joey, beating this Dracozolt down in the end turn. GG to Joey. I was definitely skeptical about going the Espeon route because, again, the two Dark types he has on his team and the fact that he actually did bring the Incineroar. But I feel like I did a really good job at trying to get rid of that early. Hiding the low kick was a good thing to do. And shoutouts to the Cinderace and the Rotom Wash for just pivoting around my opponent's team like crazy because it worked out in my favor heavily. But one more time, GG to Joey. We are going to move up to a 2-0 record with a +5 differential. So this is pretty good. We got 2 wins for the GOATs so far. Next week we face off against Jack or Gravy, whatever you want to call him, coach of the Vancouver Titans. We have fought Jack before, and that was in the ABC, and we lost to him. So I know he's a really good battler, and he has got a pretty good team. He has Corviknight, which is one of the new mons, so that thing's very annoying to prep for. We'll have to go up against that next week. Plus, he's in charge of this whole league, so, you know, high authority. But that's basically going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you guys for watching so much. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you like Pokemon Draft League content, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to head out of here. Have a fantastic day, YouTube.